Hey y'all, it's your queen coming through right quick, right fast with a channeled message that is timeless. So, some conversations have come up, some research has been done, some meditation has taken place, some messages have come through. So, I'm gonna keep it very short and sweet because it's impromptu and Spirit says get straight to it. Okay, so I'm gonna get straight to it. So, I've been talking a lot in different capacities, platforms, instances, all that good stuff about where the physical and the spiritual, emotional, and mental and all of that meet and where they separate, how they can come together and benefit each other, and how they can separate and attack each other. So, most of us may notice that a lot of artists in general, but I'm going to keep it specific to actors and actresses, and I'm also speaking as an actress. Many of us notice how a lot of the time, at least up until this point, the better the actor or actress is, the crazier they are. In simple terms, that's called getting lost in the sauce. But in more technical terms, if you will, I'm not gonna be too technical because I really want to be just very casual and straight to the point with it, right? So there's this thing, it's an identity crisis. And some will call it an actor's identity crisis, but it doesn't exactly have a technical term for it specifically as it concerns artists, actors, and all of that I could find. The only term I could find is actor's identity crisis. So what happens is there's a particular part of your brain, lobe, if you will, in your brain that is responsible for keeping you intact with your identity, your sense of self, knowing, being, expressing who you are. And so, of course, if you don't know who you are, you're going to struggle to recognize one way or another everybody else, even if you've been knowing them for a long time, right? So, getting into the depths of all of that is a conversation for another time. But all actors and actresses don't experience the identity crisis. All don't experience it forever, if you will. Some of us have our moments that we have to learn from, and we reform our regimens and things of that nature and learn how to balance out our craft and our lifestyle and all of that in the process. And if you notice, there have been more artists, actors and actresses, even athletes and all of that, prioritizing their mental health more and saying, no, I'm not going to do that job. I'm not going to do that game. I'm not going to do that movie, show, or whatever. Or I'm not going to put out an album right now. I want to get my mind right type shit, right? That's some real shit. A lot of artists in the past didn't do that. They didn't really even have the liberty to do that. So shout out to them for paving the way for our generation to be able to say, hey, pause. I need a break to get back in touch with the self. I'll be back. So, the main focus for this vid, though, is for me to point out that acting and shit like that don't just go on in plays, movies, shows, and things of that nature. The way society is set up, people be acting their way through life. Faking the funk, posturing, being passive aggressive, suppressing emotion, acting like you don't care, acting like, you know what I'm saying, you don't know that it's some things you need to be unpacking and releasing and shit like that. So, when you act, and now I am speaking not just on the professional actor standpoint, I'm speaking in general. When you act, when you play pretend, when you be fake in any type of way, when you impersonate, when you are making a conscious effort to not be yourself, your lobe in your brain that is responsible for identity starts to become very weakened. And it's not that hard to weaken it. It's not that hard to, come back and exercise it and regenerate it. But if you don't have the knowledge or the capacity or the willpower to keep a strict regimen to make sure that you stay in touch with yourself, then yeah. And the more you do that, the more, in simple terms, you drive yourself crazy because you are losing sight of yourself. You put yourself in a position to be extremely ungrounded. And that puts you at high risk of Alzheimer's, sundowners, dementia. It puts you at high risk that, like, if you get a head injury, you may be quicker to suffer a concussion. You may be more prone to amnesia and things of that nature. And so, shadow work has a lot to do with identity as well, specifically balancing out your understanding of your identity and your connection with your full identity. Because none of us are just good or just bad unless we choose to not be ourselves. Unless we choose to excessively indulge in one or the other. But naturally, we all are good and we all are bad. Simultaneously, off and on, up and down at the same time, all that. So, it's not good enough to just sit up and talk about how great you are and only listen to compliments and, get caught up in false positivity or excessive optimism. You got to give some attention to that dark side as well. You got to give some attention to the unconventional side as well, because that is also a part of who you are. And you got to be honest about that part. You got to not always find a justification for heinous, unsavory, dark actions. A lot of them can simply be redirected. But in order to figure out how to properly redirect them, you have to first be completely accountable for them. You have to completely account them. So, wrapping this up, closing this out, with all that being said, if you're avoiding shadow work, if you are caught up in this habit of always having an excuse for why you can't take the time out and journal, why you can't take the time out and research different methods of, getting more keen on your sense of identity, your sense of self, your self-love, your relationship with yourself, self-care, all this, that, and the third, when it comes to being intimate and having a relationship with yourself, you're not only putting yourself at risk for not progressing spiritually, you're not only putting yourself at risk of karmic situations and energy vampires and all that shit, you're also fucking up your physical health. Amongst potentially, being seen out having unstable reactions to things or things of that nature, but you're also setting yourself up for the high potential of getting to where you want to be and not having any memory or sense of identity of where you were. And granted, sometimes shit just happen. But if you got all these options to prevent, it can't hurt to try. It can't hurt to try, child. So yeah, do that shadow work. Get in touch with yourself. Love yourself. Have a relationship with yourself. Be intimate with yourself. Because not only will it help you in your relationships, your everyday interactions, your money, and all of that, it also goes a long way when, if the Lord's willing, when you get to elder status, you will have set yourself up for greatness even more. At least have a higher potential of not having a lot of the issues that a lot of our elders say, oh, you're automatically destined for. Not necessarily. Some things, just come with the territory of getting older. But a lot of things can be prevented if you start early. So, that is the end of my Sun-Kissed talk. I wanted to say TED Talk, but my name ain't Ted. That is the conclusion of this queenly conversation. And with all that being said, child, if I do say so myself, honey, I have milked this cow dry. And I'm thoroughly appreciative for the exchange of vibes. And if you're feeling synchronized, please do me a divine design and like, share, and subscribe so that you can be one of the first to be back through these queenly quarters for the next time. And be sure to bless that comment section with your questions and conversations. And as always, I bid you all light, love, healing, and liberation. Emphasis on liberation. Mwah.